Welcome, everybody. This is going to be the first of hopefully many Vaultside chats that we have with Kinesis. Before we dive into it, I'm Jim Forsythe, Chair of Citizens for Sound Money, and Citizens for Sound Money is hosting this. Our mission is to encourage people to use sound money and to protect their right to do so. We're advocates for users and investors. Disclosures, we are invested in Kinesis as well as some other asset-backed digital currencies. And but we're trying to represent the users and investors. We haven't been paid by Kinesis to do what we're doing today or other things. Believe that this space is the underdog, and that all the people in this space will need to work together, and friendly competition is good. This is not a response to other things going on. This has been something that we've had in the works for a while. Tom started meeting with our advisory board and our board several months back doing AMAs, and we found it was extremely useful, not only getting to know the team, but also them getting to know our issues or our suggestions or our ideas. And so we wanted to open that up to a broader community, the user base and the investor base, and doing it in a public way. And really appreciate, Tom, that you took us up on that offer, and I'll hand it over to you to introduce your team.
Thank you very much, Jim. Also, thanks to you, Chicky and Rhino, for joining us. So from our side, we have Eric Main, our President and Chief Strategy Officer, on the line. We have Richard Melbourne, our Chief Operating Officer, and we also have Jai Bafalko, our Chief Commercial Officer. Yeah, looking forward to running through any questions and having a really good discussion with you guys. And we've brought in the specialist guys to be able to answer different questions in more granular detail. So thank you very much and appreciate your time, everybody.
Yeah, and I should introduce the members of the team on this side. We've got Reno, who is official board member, voting board member. He's also our business integration director. He's been really good at getting businesses involved in using sound money. And then we have Uchiki, who is basically standing in for the user investor community, especially the forums. He's known as Uchikipedia because he literally is like the Wikipedia of all things Kinesis. So welcome to you guys. Why don't we start there, Tom, and you can talk about, since this is our first one, we normally talk about things since the last one, but you can talk about things that have happened since the last quarterly update, I'd say.
Since the last quarterly update, we've had a couple of releases. One of the primary releases is Kinesis Pay. That's the first phase release that we've done. We're very excited about that. This enables us to start bringing in an online merchants from around the world, both in the virtual space but also physical space. There'll be a subsequent release whereby there'll be a platform that physical merchants will be able to utilize. We have a plan for a global registry with a map where our users will be able to zoom in and browse, peruse different merchants across the world that are accepting Kinesis Pay and KAU and KAG. So this is opening up like a whole new area of commercialization for us. We're really excited about it. We started off largely targeted in the precious metals space in that vertical. But it's a very narrow vertical, so we're broadening things out now because our target market verticals span across, the precious metal space. We provide quite a value proposition there. No storage fees, but non-debt-based yield associated with precious metals holdings, and there's active yields and passive yields there. But we also span into the payment and the banking space as well. We span into just general investment and also the virtual asset spaces and just we're laying the foundations to be able to go out to the mass market to provide phenomenal value to the mass market through our unique system. So that's on the Kinesis Pay side. So that's what I would say has been the major release. We've got a few things that are just around the corner, which I think are pretty major, including on the virtual debit card side, the banking side, and these sort of things. But I'd say the major release for this quarter has been Kinesis Pay.
Our organization definitely saw a need for something like that. We had developed a plugin, Kryptonic, and I was it was good working with Jason and his team, providing them that to take a look at. But I love the way Kinesis Pay has, it's tightly integrated where it can do the authentication, where as opposed to, copying, pasting wallet addresses. I guess an update on our side, Raina, you want to share what's been going on in Turkey?
Yeah. So C4SM started a YouTube channel in Turkey, and the first video was visiting the Turkish mint, the physical mint there without. And Serhat is our contact there, and so our video team put together a good quality video, and he got 3,000 views within a week. I mean, it's just the potential of Turkey for sound money amongst young people, older people. I mean, people are just thirsty for solutions. And so he's gone in the 6 months I've known him from not knowing what sound money was to beating the drum. And so he's very, very excited. And we look forward to growing our presence there in Turkey in lots of different ways.
Yeah, thanks for that. So let's dive into the questions then. So you mentioned in Spaces, Tom, a new Bailee company, and also in conversations with us, the idea of a new Bailee company. What's the timeline for something like that in publishing financials?
So the whole process is underway. Company has been established, the Kinesis Bailee company, and we are going through the process currently in setting up accounts with the vaults. So it's a little bit of a prolonged procedure. That is, there's a whole onboarding process in place there around AML. Like, we've submitted our AML policy for it. Also, the responsible gold policy around it as well. So we're currently in onboarding, and then once we have those accounts established with the vaults, then we can actually start moving basically the bullion which backs the KAU and KAG pool over to those accounts. And there's a bit of a legal redrafting process that's required, and that users will need to accept, and these sort of things as well. But it's all underway. We won't get it through for the next audit. These things unfortunately take time, and we do rely upon third parties here. But then, as soon as basically the vaulting accounts are established, then we can we can get the whole entity up. We'll get it funded. A couple of years of storage fees, so to really bring in comfort and confidence there, and and as mentioned as well, we're getting like a detailed procedure of how the Bailee arrangement works signed off by a barrister. So, and that's underway as well. These barristers, they sort of march to the beat of their own drum in their own time, in and out of court and that sort of thing. But that's all underway, Jim.
Great. And what's the kind of the big picture purpose of doing a Bailee company?
Well, what I saw as the benefit in it is actually just bringing simplification to the current arrangement. So ABX is wearing a couple of different hats, and because it is a operating business, then people might perceive there to be some kind of counterparty risk there. Now, what Bailee does is separate the holdings from the counterparty, so that never touches our balance sheet or ABX's balance sheet or Kinesis balance sheet, any balance sheet. But anyway, just for some simplification purposes, so we'll publish the financials. The sole purpose of the Kinesis Bailee company is to actually act as Bailee for the metal, so it won't have any other expenses apart from storage fees, and that will be the primary expense. There might be a few administration expenses and that sort of thing associated with actually being a corporate entity, but that'll be the primary expense. And so that way investors and users of the system can actually look at our financial statements, see, okay, well, there's that much cash there, there's that much runway. If anything happens to the group in any way, we've got X amount of months to be able to deliver like the bullion from the Kinesis Bailee company and arrange all of that and do all the administration around the delivery of the metal. So that's really the way that it works, like simplification and then just bringing comfort and confidence to users to understand risks associated here.
So next question is, we were all real pleased to see that KVT are going to begin yield payments. I guess the question is now, when do you think they'll be tradable? Or more importantly than when is, kind of what conditions would have to be satisfied before KVT start being tradable on the exchange?
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Jim. And we're very pleased to be able to be paying out the KVT yield to our loyal users and supporters. So that's a great thing to be knocking down here. Around the prerequisites as far as launching the trade of the KVT, what I would broadly say here is that prior to launching trade in KVT, we want to lay our foundational building blocks. So when I say foundational building blocks, these are the core items that we committed to deliver to our users from the very beginning. Our Kinesis will be successful if we do two broad high-level things, and that's one, attract capital into our ecosystem, and two, get that capital moving within our ecosystem. So we want to knock down the friction as far as those two core items there. So as far as one, moving capital in, we have embarked on establishing bank accounts around the world, and also it might be individual user accounts around the world as well, which offer that segregated capital protection there as well. So these things are all coming online and in the not too distant future. So we will shortly have different bank accounts around the world servicing users on different continents and in different countries around the world. So whether it be Europe, UK, US, into Latin America, into Africa, into Asia, we'll have all different accounts around the world that are really appropriate for serving the efficient onboarding or on-ramping and off-ramping of fiat capital around the world. So that's one prerequisite, you might say, that needs to come online, and we're not so far away from that. The next one is the debit cards as well. So this relates to getting the capital moving and being able to be spent as sound money at the end of the day. So we have physical card programs that are coming for Europe and the UK. We're working on that. They're a matter of months away. We've got our own internal date there. We're yet to lock it in publicly. And also physical cards, a really, really great physical card program in the United States as well. So that's coming. But in addition to that, we've already launched our virtual card in 61 countries around the world. That's expanding. So it's expanding across Asia and into the Middle East and Africa and these places, and also the United States. So the United States is really close with that, along with these other expanded territories. But in addition to that as well, Apple Pay is very close. It's in testing right now internally. So we're testing that. We're going to have hopefully a very exciting release soon around that, because I know a lot of our user base actually utilize Apple devices. So that should be a big assistance to them. They're the two primary things. We're expanding in other areas as well, that like including Kinesis Pay, Kinesis Pro, and launching that and getting volume through Kinesis Pro and targeting the digital asset target market vertical. These sort of things will all be contributing towards the yields, and we have a whole planned sequence in the lead up to listing the KVT and listing it for trade. and we'll be supporting as best as what we can the value and the price of the KVT, but it's something that we're approaching very strategically. We ask the community to bear with us. We're looking after you, and we'll be looking after the value and the price of the KVT.
Tom, I have a question about the mint, the physical mint. What is the strategic significance of the mint? And some of the KVT holders, some of their questions have been how the yield pool could potentially benefit from the physical mint. And so this is a question that's come up several times.
So thank you very much for that, Rhino. The physical mint is strategic in various ways. The first way, one, it represents diversification and vertical integration for us across the supply chain of precious metals. This is something that we have deemed to be a very important strategy for us since very early days. Once we start to integrate across the supply chain, then what it means is that we capture more profit margin, we capture more control over the supply chain, and we become less vulnerable to third parties let's just say third parties. And we really take the destiny into our own hands, and we can really control our own success, and at the same time capture more profit margin. So that's one element to it, and just commenting there, this is quite a high level strategy within the organisation, and it's a strategy that we're expanding upon. So we're not stopping with just the mint. I think everyone knows that we've also been building and built a refinery as well. This refinery is going to be one of the primary refineries within Turkey, and I'll get into the strategic side of the location in a second. Refinery, mint, vault. We're also expanding into the jewellery sector as well. We just got a bunch of equipment delivered in Turkey, actually, to expand in that way, because in many regions in the world, in many cultures, they like to actually wear their wealth on them. So investment grade jewellery is something that we see as also important to be able to appeal and attract different global target markets. So that will be another core component. And we're not stopping with just Turkey as well. We're expanding into other regions. So just coming back to the strategic importance of Turkey. Turkey, firstly, is one of the oldest and largest physical markets in the world. It's a very cost-effective and efficient market, same-day, settlement and delivery. If you've been to Turkey, you've probably walked through the Grand Bazaar. Within the Grand Bazaar is an area where both gold and silver actually transact, open outcry. So you've got these little alleyways. It's quite a fascinating thing, and there's people literally exchanging physical cash for physical gold in those locations. You've also got the Istanbul Gold Exchange, which merged with Borsa Istanbul. So this is something that we've been working through as well, like membership into the Istanbul Gold Exchange, and then also bringing our refinery in to be a approved refinery in the spaces, like in the Istanbul Gold Exchange. And there's a lot of benefits that come from that, cost-effective benefits, import, export, these sort of things. There's a number of prerequisites that we have to fulfill, including operational output and that sort of thing prior to approval. So we're still working through intermediaries within Turkey, but we're working towards getting these memberships in place that are very, very important for us. So that's that side, covering off why Turkey is important to us. Obviously, there's a huge affinity towards precious metals as money in Turkey. as well, and appreciation for the value of precious metals, gold and silver. So there's that side. There'll always be demand and there'll always be liquidity in Turkey. That's hugely beneficial for us. And it strategically also is in close proximity to Europe and the Middle East and these sort of places. So it opens those markets very cleverly. Obviously, we've been exporting our product to the United States as we ramp up. We've taken delivery over the last couple of months of all new brand new machinery that will be increasing our production there. I think it's by fivefold. Our production is really cranking up now, so that's really exciting, and we're opening up different distribution channels around the world. We've just done a test shipment into Asia. And looking to open distribution channels up into Europe as well. But Silverback Precious Metals has been taking all of our output in the United States as we ramp up. So very appreciative of that. But yes, we'll also be expanding our supply chain infrastructure and facilities to other parts of the world. I'm very pleased to announce as well, and we've been working at the public-private partnership level, and it's on both the physical side and the digital side. And these two components marry together very well. Obviously, there's been some upheaval in the digital space, but we also have the physical side. So we bring the two together, and that brings a lot of comfort, I would say, and we can really deliver a lot of value as far as offering alternatives in the monetary space to all different levels of society, government, corporate, and the retail public.
And then just a quick follow-up on the yield pool so far as contributing to it, Tom.
So yeah, we have discussed internally and also discussed with you guys the possibility of bringing in a certain, call it fee component, attached to, say, a troy ounce of gold and silver, or it might be a gram of gold and a troy ounce of silver, and attaching that to the output of our physical output and sales of our physical facilities. We have agreed internally to do this. We are yet to lock in the quantums. We've been running the numbers and that sort of thing, because it does have a fair few sort of follow-on consequences. So we've been running the numbers on that. We should have a number locked in pretty soon that I think that we can also come back to you guys at C4SM and talk about and Silverback Precious Metals and discuss, how we're going to work with this. But the way that will work is, okay, obviously you guys are already buying KAU and KAG and paying us for it. And we're requesting that other distributors that we're bringing online as well in different parts of the world also do the same. So there's already the contribution to the yield pool. And it as you guys know as well, there can be a whole there's a whole downstream sort of chain of this occurring, whereby you go out to dealers and they go out to their end clients as well. And if they all start using KAU and KAG, then that translates into many transactions for the metal to actually find its home with the end user. So there's already, great appeal in that. And this can actually start at the mine site as well. So we can have miners actually receiving KAU and KAG for product. That product gets sent to the refinery, for example, and then goes through the process there and then on. So it can go from like the primary producer to the end consumer. And so it translates into many transactions all the way through. That's where we're going. That's why it's very important as well that we vertically integrate across the physical supply chain. But notwithstanding that, I think it is a really great sweetener for us to also provide a little bit more stimulus to the fee pool. So yeah, we will be attaching a certain set fee. It's too much of a nightmare if it's a percentage arrangement, because prices of metals are going up and down. So certain set fee per KAU, it's full per the gold and silver that we'll be processing and selling. So that's what we're committing to do, and it should be a good contributor towards the fee pool, and that will also, I think, really boost things up. Also leading into the launching and the trading of the KVTs as well.
Great, thank you.
Also, in addition to Tom's point there, it's worth noting that we do work exceptionally hard to deliver exceptional pricing to our KAU and KAG minters across the board. So, with the network that we have established and the logistic chains that we've built in Turkey, it really does allow us to enable the supply of deep liquidity to the Kinesis user base through the Turkish physical mint and also through the Kinesis virtual mint. So we have readily available raw materials at our disposal, and because of this, we can produce investment grade gold and silver at a very competitive price. As Kinesis is a approved refiner, this ultimately means that the cost-effective bullion bars can be passed along into the Kinesis ecosystem through the activity of minting through the Kinesis virtual mint. So this means that all of these competitive priced metals end up in the hands of the KAU and KAG minters. It's about keeping deep liquidity and a cost-effective experience for everyone as well.
That's an interesting point. Is that something that you'd say that we're seeing at the moment, or is it something for the future?
I would say we've started to see it, but I believe it'll become more so apparent in the future.
Just a note on the previous question there. I recuse myself from this. I am a partner in Silverback. I'm a 23% partner, not a majority interest. And then C4SM has a board that's outside of Silverback. Just to make that clear, it's two separate entities, but I didn't want to wait in this discussion because of that. And appreciate Reno asking the question.
And I think the final leg to that question and the benefits is the branding exercise, right? So we get our name out there in a physical product that goes out to dealers and their clients, and it becomes a name that people become familiar with. And once people are familiar with the name, that follow on to, okay, what is Kinesis? Then they look into the Kinesis platform and they see they can transact digitally at a good price and have no storage fees, etc. And the snowball happens from there. So it's a branding exercise. It gets the word out. Here's Kinesis. Here's what we do, amongst the other benefits that's been mentioned thus far.
Yeah, so I wanted to, if you guys could, Tom or Richard, whoever's good at this, explain the vault management system. I first kind of found out about this when I was interviewing Atlas Vaults, and they were like getting into the vault management system. So if you could explain that system and then how the audit's intended to confirm that.
Sure, I'm happy to jump in and take that one there. So it's important to understand, the purpose of the audit and also the procedure of the audit, and I think that'll give a good sort of overview of, to answer that question. So first of all, the procedure of the audit is as follows. First of all, the dates are coordinated between the auditors and the vaulting operators. After those dates are coordinated, closer to those dates, Kinesis requests an inventory report from the allocated bullion exchange, which is extracted from the vault management system. And this report outlines all the metals that are attributed to Kinesis. At the same time, Kinesis takes a snapshot of the KAU and KAG blockchains to reveal the coins in circulation at a particular point in time. After that, Kinesis then requests ABX to arrange with the vaulting providers to make the metal available that's on those inventory lists to be available for inspection on the date of the audit. Kinesis then provides this metal inventory list to Inspectorate with instructions to check the physical metal against the inventory list that we provide to them. The audit takes place, the metal on the inventory list is compared to the inventory list held by the vaulting operator, the metal is counted, and then the auditor drafts their report. The time it takes for it all to happen really does vary, but generally we get everything back around about a month or so after the final date of inspection. And on review and approval of the the final audits. We compile everything and publish them to the community to inspect. We also publish the numbers that were provided on the Vault Management System extract, which are compared against the blockchain records. And this can be found on, the cover sheet of the compilation of the audits that's released to the public. So, with that being said, the purpose of the audit is to confirm that the inventory report provided to the independent auditors marries up with the inventory list held by the vaulting operators, which also needs to marry up with the physical metals that are held in the secure vaulting facilities around the world. This then needs to align with a snapshot of the blockchain, showing the coins in circulation at a particular point in time. So the audit really is to count the precious metals items and to confirm that these items that are attributed to KAU and KAG are all indeed in vault. So all metal prior to being deposited into the vaulting facility must, comply to a very strict quality assurance framework and undergo scrutiny and testing or confirm proof of unbroken chain of custody before being cleared for deposit. The audit tallies and counts this metal that has been deposited and compares it against the blockchain snapshot. And when these two numbers align and marry, that's what's considered a successful audit. So the Vault Management System really is the initial system that generates the inventory report that demonstrates the metal attributed to all KAU and KAG in circulation at a particular point in time.
Will, one of the things that I think might be helpful in the audit that comes from Bureau Veritas is to actually include some of the totals, the totals from that Vault Management System, which is effectively what they're reconciling against, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, look, the totals from the Vault Management System are on the cover sheets that's released to the public. So it does tell you what that total is. I believe it's on a letter from the Allocated Bullion Exchange on the reports that's released to the public.
Right. Would it be possible for Bureau Veritas to say to include that in their in a breakdown for each vault in their report and say, look, we've reconciled to these numbers, and then they total up and they come to what's on the cover sheet?
It could be possible, but it would involve a lot more in terms of the actual audit itself. It would involve a lot of weighing, which would take a very, very long time to get through it all. It would absolutely extend the time taken to perform the audit. So it's a challenge. It's not off the table, but certainly something we can consider.
Okay, yeah. I mean, even if it's big, because there'll be a separate auditor per vault, won't there? So even if each of those was signing off to say this is what we've reconciled for this vault, then it's a fairly straightforward process for people to go through the report then and say, right, okay, we can add up the totals of each of the 15 vaults or however many vaults we have, and that tallies to the overall total in the ABX report. Sure,
and that's a great point, and it is actually something we will be doing in future audits. So I see what you mean here. So how it currently is that there's totals of the various items that are counted, and there's a statement at the end saying that the report and the metal all reconcile, which is great. But look, a summary sheet outlining that this has been counted across all of the locations, and even maybe a breakdown of just a quick summary, so that a reconcile can be done at a glance is certainly something that we will be incorporating in future audits.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So, like, if we have the weight per vault, like we're saying, confirmed, then it's a very easy reconciliation that anyone onlookers can confirm for themselves. Then.
Yeah. It would. I mean, it's something we're going to continue to fine tune and changes as time goes on. But I am in agreement. We a nice cover summary sheet, outlining what was audited versus the inventory report that was presented to the inspector is certainly something that will add value.
I will also just add there as well. Yes, we recognise the need internally to simplify the audit reports. That 60-page document that we release, which includes the different audits per vault, it's more of an internal report that's delivered. And we've just previously made the decision, we'll just furnish this to all of our users. But I see that it can create some confusion, and we don't want to create confusion. So yeah, we're working on ways to simplify it all, to get the auditor to obviously reconcile, verify these total numbers, and then release and release it in that form. So that document will be more so an internal document for management, but we will have Bureau Veritas will sign off and verify the totals. So these things, we're still learning along the way. We're still, we're still fortifying our organisation to be able to deliver the clearly understood communications to our community, and that we've certainly taken feedback on that. And yeah, the presentation of the audit will be much clearer and better going forward. We've obviously also committed to quarterly audits, which is very regular. This is quite a undertaking to actually organise a whole audit, but we've been lining everything up and booking it all in each quarter at a certain time, going a couple of years out now. So we're looking to bring efficiency to the whole audit process. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds great. I mean, I can see what you're saying about the simplification, because, well, to be honest, we're at early days at the moment. Let's say 1.2 million KAU. So wind that forward a bit, and instead of having a 60-page report, it's going to be a 200-page report, and nobody's going to want to look through that, really. Okay. So I've got one other follow-up on the audit side, and that's that before some of the audits, we've seen quite large redemptions prior to the audits taking place. I wonder if it would be possible to give some explanation of why those have occurred, and do you expect to see that happening before future audits?
Sure, happy to take that one as well. So our liquidity providers utilize the redemption mechanism as an essential means for providing constant and consistent liquidity on the KMS for all KAU and KAG pairs. At the time of audit, we typically see these liquidity providers execute much larger than usual redemptions. And this is because during the audit process, we do not process any redemptions. Now, this isn't just the 2 to 3 days for the inspection visit, but this is from the moment that ABX generates the inventory report for Kinesis until the date that the final inspection is completed. So by taking a larger than normal redemption, it allows for these liquidity providers to provision for the suspension of redemption services while being able to maintain adequate liquidity in the market during the audit periods.
Okay, that makes sense. And just one small follow-up to that. How do you handle new mintings? Is there some sort of ring fencing of the bars in the vault to be counted during the audit until it's finished?
Well, no, deposits in is fine. Really, it's the audit's all about reconciling a snapshot in a particular point in time. Obviously, things can't come out because then things would be potentially missing from an inventory list. It's really about Things coming in is fine, but things coming out, it can't be done during the audit time. So, EPDs, minting activity and whatnot is still fine during that period of time.
But would you not sort of put those in a holding area until the audit has finished counting?
No, they just wouldn't be included in the inventory list.
Okay, that's me done for that question. Thanks.
So another related question too, because I kind of may have misspoke in spaces. The physical mint products show up in the audit. It wasn't clear to me if that was. Well, I made some guesses and I was wrong. Can you explain how the physical mint products, both in the 2022 audit and then the 2023 audit, were handled?
I'll take that one from a high level first. Yeah. So we have a process as far as metal coming into the system, obviously. Now, out of Turkey, the guys in Turkey are buying metal, gold and silver out of the local market and processing it, so minting the products. And then between say, delivery of the metal, it might be accrued over a month or two, so between delivery of the metal and it sitting in our facility, just accumulating, there is a process whereby, say, liquidity providers, our market maker, can actually bring it in to back the pool. So this might typically be done via an EPD, for example. So because the market maker effectively owns the metal that during the processing phase in Turkey, and then should the market maker, like this is our internal market maker, wish to actually offer that physical liquidity to the pool to be able to trade on that, then they can EPD it in or make it available to be physically minted in. So that's the process that's going on. Obviously, prior to shipment, there's a process for it to be redeemed out of the system. So a redemption occurs, and then it's, for example, exported to Kinesis USA, and then distributed on from there. But that's just the process how it works. It's just anyone else can EPD it, and the market maker also can EPD. It meets the requirements to be EPD'd, so that's how it comes into the system. Rich, am I missing anything there?
No, look, that covers it well. The other thing to remember here, though, is, Kinesis is an approved refiner. Thus, as metals are minted, sometimes, depending on price and liquidity, of course, KAU and KAG minted may be backed by Kinesis branded metals. Occasionally, there may also be EPD of Kinesis branded bars or coins as well. And there can also be large exchange partners or exchange participants that may choose to swap large format bars for Kinesis branded bars or coins as well for a variety of reasons. Ultimately, there is a host of reasons why Kinesis products may be part of the KAU and KAG allocated backing, but really no different as to why any other hallmark bars may be a part of it too. One thing I'm certain of, though, is that we will continue to see Kinesis branded bars and coins be part of the overall precious metals allocation well into the future.
If someone's doing 1 ounce, if you guys put 1 ounce coins in the pool, I don't know if I want this question there. Is that then segregated storage, or is it backing the pool as a whole? Could be either or.
It could be either, yeah. Depends.
So I guess the scenario people paint is like, if everybody does redemptions and all the 100 ounce bars go, can they redeem for a 1 ounce, a monster box of 1 ounce rounds? Or
not according to our current rules. So the rules for the overall pool have the minimum 100 gram bar, like for delivery for gold, and it's kilo and 100 gram for gold, and 200 ounces of silver. That's the minimum.
This goes back to something that has been brought up with regards to gold coins that did not have a weight, didn't have a size, just so far as the audit, and maybe as part of there are obviously segregated coins that somebody owned. but somebody really, of course, brought those up, and maybe good to find a way to address that when you guys simplify the audit.
Yeah, sure, absolutely happy to take that. So the coins that you mentioned there, they are part of segregated deposits, and the thing with a lot of these coins is the fineness really varies between them, and as part of the segregated EPD program, we really only emit the fine weight of these coins, so that everything remains, one-to-one allocated by 4 nines. So, it's a challenge to kind of do that, but it's not impossible. But we're talking about sort of simplifying the audit reports as well. If we start to introduce that sort of complexity, the pages will blow out, especially when we're looking at, over 1,700 odd coins that are in segregated deposits.
Just a quick follow-up to what Richard was saying. As long as the overall weight is certified for each vault, then that would include the collection of EPD coins.
It would, but it would be the net weight, yeah, and that's where the issue of including all of the total weight sort of comes into effect, because we're not. The weights vary significantly between different coins or rounds and different years, and we really do need to. If we were to introduce all of that into a sheet to confirm all of that, the pages would definitely blow out in the audit reports.
I think the way it's getting Bureau Veritas to actually just verify the totals, because they go through and they count everything, and they can just verify the totals. I think that is that's satisfactory in my view, and that way they're verifying it. They're the auditor, and if you've got a problem with their verification, then you've got a problem with the auditor, and we can't do anything about that.
Yeah, I think in terms of verifying the total, really to verify the total exactly, they have to weigh everything, which they can't really do. But statistically, you can total up all the bars, do sample weights, and statistically say, with a high level of confidence, we know, the numbers look good, right? Is that essentially the purpose of the audit?
Yeah. Look, all of the bars that come in to any of the allocated bullion exchange vaulting ecosystem have to go through that quality assurance framework. They all have to be tested and confirmed to unbroken chain of custody. So in order to even get into any of that ecosystem, they do have to go through rigorous checks. So the point of the audit really is to confirm that metal is indeed in vault at time of the snapshot being taken.
Is it also worthwhile, commenting on the segregated EPD system and how that actually operates?
Sure. Yeah, happy to do so. So the segregated system is really a great way for the community to get utilization out of bullion bars or rounds or coins that they are holding in their possession, but would like to actually get some utilization out of it, some real world application out of it, whilst not losing title and ownership of that bar or those coins. There may be some coins that have sentimental value, or some rare coins, or a bar that has sentimental value that a user would, a member of the community would like to keep ownership of. So the segregated program allows for a user to deposit the particular bars, coins, or rounds, and that is then segregated from the allocated pool associated with general trade and minting activity. on the KF that other users can achieve just by utilizing the Mint. So these segregated Boolean items are then basically tagged and bagged, and that is attributed to the user. And there are certain business rules in place whereby a user, after it's tagged and bagged, the equivalent fine weight of KAU or KAG is emitted to the depositor. And then, that user may utilize KAU and KAG on a debit card or for exchange activity or whatever they wish. And they're actually getting some utilization out of their coins, whilst also having that segregated metal still held in their name, still attributed to them. Should they wish to redeem it or withdraw any of those particular items that they deposited, they may do so. It's just as simple as putting in a standard redemption request and making note that they would like this coin or this bar redeemed as part of the redemption request. So it's a great way to get utility out of coins that may have sentimental value or special coins that a user wants to see a little more out of it.
So Rich, also just around the business rules that are applied and that 2/3 limit. So we allow for our users to sell down a third and still maintain the segregation. So that's operational segregation of the metal. So say, for example, they bring in 100 ounces of gold and sell down 25 ounces of gold. Then that's still the segregation of that metal is reserved for them. Now, for them to take the entire 100 ounces back, they have to buy the 25 ounces back to withdraw it out. As they sell down, say, 25 ounces equivalent of KAU, then that becomes, those 25 ounces become part of the pool that's been sold. But we're just maintaining business rules as far as the operational segregation of it. When they sell it, they lose legal title to it. We've got two different components here. We've got the legal title component, and we've also got the operational component. So it's our pooled system is legally allocated, operationally pooled. So if they were to sell some of their items, those items move from the operationally segregated component of what they're holding and move into our operational pool. So, but should they buy it back out of the pool, then their segregation is maintained. So I think that we've got some good sort of rules in there that allow our users to unlock the value of precious metals, which maybe in deep storage and not utilized for a very long time, and they might even have some kind of sentimental attachment to these different bars or coins, or there might be a larger sort of value added component to the coins, including like a collectible component. And so our system still allows users to unlock that value for spending purposes and maintain the segregation, but to obviously withdraw it back out, all of it back out again, they'll have to take their holdings back up to that level that they introduced them into the system for.
Yeah, it's a good explanation, well worth covering.
This one's probably for Tom. Can you elaborate on the financial relationship between ABX and Kinesis? The services provided and the compensation paid, and how, I think part of it, the question is historically how it's been handled. Now with the Bailee company coming in, how you see it changing, and just helping the community sort of understand some of these questions that's come up so far as ABX and its relation with Kinesis.
Sure, thanks for that, Rhino. So ABX is a spot physical exchange, global exchange for precious metals, gold, silver, and platinum. Kinesis is a member of the ABX. The thing is, the ABX doesn't charge Kinesis any fees on transactions. So that way Kinesis is able to pass on very, very efficient, tight pricing, very tight bid-ask spreads and these sort of things. So the Kinesis Mint connects into the ABX and basically finds the best prices across the ABX trading hubs. So that's on the technology side and what what ABX is facilitating as far as a solution to a technological solution to Kinesis. Now that has value, but Kinesis doesn't pay anything for those transactions that go through the ABX. So the poor old girl sort of lucks out there as far as ABX is concerned. So in addition to that, ABX is also a service entity, a very important service entity to Kinesis. ABX employs a fair chunk of staff that just work dedicated 100% of the time on the Kinesis project. Also engages a number of contractors spread across the world. So not all of our staff are actually employed and fall under employment law. They're actually contractors in different parts of the world where we may not have a local entity established, for example. So because we're set up to be a large global organization, we need representation across the world, and we might have different teams in different areas that are strategic to us and these sort of things. So a lot of that expense does not, like a material amount of that expense, that employment expense, goes through ABX. So ABX needs to charge Kinesis for that. So that there's a service charge that is conducted to compensate ABX for incurring those employment costs. Also, there's a software license agreement in place to compensate ABX from Kinesis for basically utilization of ABX IP and software. So these are fair things. There is legacy things on the balance sheet of ABX that have been built up where ABX didn't actually invoice Kinesis for these things in the early days and for different reasons, but Kinesis may have still paid for those expenses, but ABX never invoiced for them. So there's those components. So now going in what we're doing with Kinesis Bailee company. So the ABX also, it holds the master vaulting agreements with various different vaults around the world, Brinks, Loomis, Malkaramet, and also OZL and Atlas vaults and our vault as well. So ABX holds those vaulting agreements, and those agreements under the Kinesis Bailee company will be moving. They'll be shifting to the Kinesis Bailee company. So ABX will stop being the safekeeper there, stop offering Bailee services to Kinesis. It'll be the Kinesis Bailee company. So there'll be a transition of a role there, and there are processes that need to be put in place to facilitate that transition. Like I said, there's reasons around all of that, but that's why that's what's changing there, Rhino.
Tom, and then can you just comment about the health of ABX as an entity? There's some questions in the community about that, and just kind of comment on how you feel like it's doing, how it's done this past year.
Yeah, thanks for that, Rhino. And I did talk about this just very quickly on the Twitter Spaces session as well. So as mentioned, ABX is, well, one, and it offers exchange services to Kinesis, and two, it's a service entity. It is strong financially because Kinesis is strong financially, and also what ABX has in place as far as agreements and partnerships with the Indonesian government and different government-owned entities throughout Indonesia that will be ramping up. Eric will be talking about that further in a little bit. Also Deutsche Börse and our partnership there to become a institutional exchange at the very highest levels to offer exchange services to large financial institutions and banks and trading houses. So it's actually got a very bright future. It's been incubating for a little while and just serving Kinesis. So Kinesis, as really its big sister or big brother, however you want to look at it, supports it completely financially. And so there's nothing to worry about from a solvency issue perspective. That is very clear. And you'll be seeing improvements in the financial statements and things cleaned up and that sort of thing that will be illuminating going forward. So yeah, that's what I'd say there, Rhino, and handing back to you.
Just as a follow-up, and then it's also a Bailee arrangement as well. So that's a further way that the KAU and KG holders are not at risk, right?
Yes. So yeah, never on the balance sheet. So that's it. Like drilling into the balance sheet of ABX, which I know some people have. I think it's a futile exercise, frankly, because it's never on the balance sheet, and it's pretty clear that Kinesis just completely supports ABX. Like there's no doubt about that whatsoever. Drill into the balance sheet and have a look for yourself. So that's the way it works.
So I got tagged with the next question, which is about regulation. I may be the wrong guy to be asking this because I believe the free markets are the best regulation.
Do you want me to ask it?
Especially in the United States, a lot of the regulation is not there to help the little guy. So you Cheeky, why don't you take this one?
Okay, so as we broaden out the audience that Kinesis addresses, a lot of people in the street, they sometimes look for, is this organization regulated by such and such in my country? It gives people more confidence to be dealing with an organization like that. So would it be possible to comment on efforts that Kinesis is making in this direction, and as well as that, contributions that Kinesis has made to regulation in the field in which it operates?
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much for that, Yuchiki. So currently, Kinesis Cayman is registered as a virtual asset service provider within the Cayman Islands. You could call it licensing. It's regulation. We fall within that regulatory environment now, whereby there's certain reporting standards, and so we are being regulated. We issue audited financial statements to CIMA. So the Cayman Islands Monetary Authority, that's the regulator there. That's our current regulatory structuring. We have also gone about establishing regulated entities in different parts of the world, including Europe and Asia, and into other parts of the world as well, which you'll see coming up. I think our community is aware of Liechtenstein and Lithuania, which have been established for various different reasons. It's been a very long process with the regulator out of Liechtenstein, but we're very close. And Lithuania, it's online. It's all approved and online, and we'll be shortly putting some business activities through there that the community will become aware of. So there's that side, and then there's a few other jurisdictions that will be spinning up as well in different continents that will offer a regulated solution, a regulated entity that users within that continent can confidently face. And with a well-known and respected jurisdiction within their local region. So that's the main reason why we've set up these different regions. It makes facing different partners, maybe in the banking space or just different partners in general, like counterparts in those different regions. It's better at the end of the day. Instead of, say, somebody in Australia facing a Cayman Island entity, they'll be able to face an entity that's regulated within their home region, or it might be within Asia, or it might be within Europe, and you understand what I'm saying. So we've put together, it's been a monumental effort to work through all this corporate governance stuff in forming regulated entities around the world to face different local regions or different regions around the world to offer a local service per region, and this is the reason. This is the reason why. So yeah, wish we could do it overnight. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen overnight. Where regulators have still been trying to understand how to best regulate this virtual asset space, and they've taken their time and as far as catching up, and we've tried to be on the forefront of this as much as what we can be. So,
okay, that's great. Yeah, I think that no doubt will provide reassurance to partners and future partners, as well as the general public.
Yeah, and I should follow up with my negative view on regulation, though, that, there are things like the Liechtenstein Blockchain Act, which is trying to ensure that tokens have legal physical ownership of the asset. So there are examples of some good regulation that's put there to help people, but in general, I think there can be a lot of regulatory capture, and I think it's really the reputation that people you're dealing with and the way the business is structured, is what's important, is most important to me personally. But I may be a minority here. So next question. Debit cards and banking, they've taken longer than expected. So at the suggestion of another user, I kind of got involved in this and called some old friends in banking and, tried to get some help, and quickly realized that it really is a struggle. Do you want to share, and you're in a tough spot because you don't want to throw potential partners or past partners under the bus if they've failed to deliver, but you want to share like some of the challenges that you've faced with these elements?
I can take this one actually, Jim.
Yeah, please.
Great. Yeah, so I think, as Tom mentioned earlier about our virtual card program, it's important to note we do have, a virtual card program that is live. It is currently live in about over 60 countries, and we are rolling out more regions for the virtual card, so that will expand further and further, which will, increase the accessibility of Kinesis in a virtual way, which means instant accessibility, no physical card delivery. As far as physical card programs are concerned, the regulatory landscape is ever changing, and it's not like you're just dealing with one regulator. Tom mentioned earlier about corporate governance. You've got different regions, and you've got program partners, you've got the regulator, and you've got banks. So you've got three different institutions that all need to come together, all have different rules, that are changing and can change at the drop of a hat. So we're continuously working through different policies and changes and requirements, and often that will protract our effort. When we're developing, we might have a development that's completely done, it's compliant, rules will change, they'll ask for what is seemingly a simple thing, and that'll require another 2 months of development, and then that'll need to be checked, and that's kind of been a little bit of an insight into what's been happening, particularly in the US, the UK, and EU. So we're continuously working to build out, an incredibly robust payment services platform at the end of the day, allowing users to, save gold savings with a yield, spend, trade metals, crypto. It touches so many touch points that the process can be often protracted because we do touch all of these areas. So the good news with all of that is we're very evolved in our approach and how we approach this process these days. We have a very, very good program that's about to come out in Europe. It is due on June the 30th. A beta launch is happening for our EU physical card program. It's a very exciting prospect. It's going to see Kinesis physical cards delivered into the hands of our European users. Shortly thereafter, we'll be working through the UK, and the US is currently spinning at the moment as well, and we're going through that very, very same process we have in all the other regions. The thing with the US is that we can't move on to the US until we box off previous regions. It's not like we can just open up a program here and move to the next program or parallel, run that program in parallel. We have to complete one, get it out the door, and then we have to go on to the next one. So this is the landscape we've been dealing with. This is where we're at. We have an exciting prospect of June 30th for a beta launch for the physical program. It'll be roughly about 60 days, 70 days from there before we sort of go public with that. And then we'll start working through the US and other regions from there.
Can I jump in with a question on the banking side? Quarterly reports have talked about the EU and UK bank deposits being provided by the recently approved Lithuanian entity, an approved crypto exchange. So my question there is, does this mean that the banking is dependent on the launch of Kinesis Pro?
Not at all. Absolutely not, no.
Okay, right. Okay. I'm reading that wrong then. Okay, thanks. Much of the value that's held by customers is in the exchange accounts as opposed to being in individual wallets on the blockchain. So all those balances are aggregated between the hot and cold wallet addresses for the exchange. Wondered if you could comment on any assurance measures that are being brought into place, like the insured custodial accounts and perhaps proof of reserves for crypto balances?
Sure, I'm happy to jump in and give a high level on that. I won't get too technical, but what I can say is that we take security and assurance very, very seriously here at Kinesis, of course. And we have invested heavily in the technology and processes behind that to minimize all risks on that front. We've recently integrated with a service provider that delivers a commercial level wallet management infrastructure that does actually have an insurance element to it as well for the assets held in custody. Coverage involves things like the digital asset crimes such as theft and fraud, as well as professional liability insurance due to errors and omissions. There's also a data breach liability as well, covering some particular events that is built in there. Of course, we have a host of internal processes and policies to significantly reduce these risks in any event, which involves multiple offline wallets and multi-sig setups. What's really more interesting, though, is the technology and security behind the exchange wallet infrastructure that we've set up. Jason Norman, our CTO, is probably best placed to give a technical overview of exactly how resilient and how interesting and cool the whole setup is. But I really can only just give you an overview there. And like you said, finally, a fully insured custodial wallet will be a product that we will be making available to the public in the not so distant future. So that will be a very exciting one once we get it out. Yeah.
Okay, look forward to seeing that.
On the proof of reserve side, we're making investigations now, and that'll be something that we'll have to go into our development pipeline as well. But yes, this is information that we understand the community wishes to see, and that's something that we can provide. Obviously, the crypto side of our business is not a major component of our business, but it's something that we can we can put in the development pipeline to be able to deliver to our community. We don't have timeframes around that as of yet, but it's something that we've taken the feedback from the community and prioritized accordingly.
Okay, great.
So far as this next section, I'm always looking forward to developments and new things emerging. So the community is really interested in how Indonesia is doing. We saw another app launch today, saw an announcement, and we just like to ask Eric for some updates from Indonesia.
Yeah, thanks, Rhino, for that. Yeah, so happy to do that. Look, Indonesia, it's been a long and winding road, as we know, but it's getting very close. And so what I'll do is kind of give an update of where we're at now, and where we see we're going in the very near future. So, as we all know, there's been these national level apps that have been created, white labeled, and integrated with the Kinesis system, being POSPay Gold, JFX GoldX, and even NU Gold. And so those are all technically done. They're all integrated with Kinesis. They've been tested. They've even had periods of internal testing by internal groups within those applications. And so they are commercially ready to go. So why haven't they, why hasn't the commercialization happened as yet? And that comes down to the regulatory side. So we have to recall that this is what we're doing is based on a new law that we helped write that has never been used before. And given the breadth of the apps that we're rolling out, it may never get used by anybody else but through us and our partners. But the fact is, it's a new law. The regulator, who is the government commodity regulator, called BAPAPT, they're the ones responsible for the regulation of this law. They are being very cautious because it's the first time and it's a new law. We've gone through several hurdles with them already over this period, as we've, in parallel done different things like, creating the integration with our systems, and the local apps creating their integrations with the local banks for, doing the real-time foreign exchange between our US dollar KAU product and the local currency, rupiah. And in parallel, the regulator has had some, naturally some questions on how this is all going to work, how a thing is going to be operated. So some of those they wanted to know that, because these are primarily retail facing applications. So they want to be sure that the public is protected in a efficient manner. So they had questions about, okay, how's the KYC and AML going to be handled? Well, that has all been done, and that box has been checked. They wanted to know about the reporting, because the government clearinghouse is the one that this all flows through. And so there has to be not only the correct reporting on a real-time basis to this government clearinghouse that has to be integrated with these systems. They also have to have policies in place for, okay, what happens if somebody is, not treated correctly as a retail product user, etc. So they've gone through that. That's been a box that's been checked. So the remaining box is, from the regulatory standpoint, has been the physical vaulting within Indonesia. So, and we've been going through that process for some time. And so what we did, as you know, as the community knows, we have a plan to build a beautiful new purpose-built bullion vault facility in Indonesia, and that will happen. But in the meantime, we have taken space within one of the PT POS, the government post office vaults, where they do cash management for a lot of the ATMs that they support through the country. And there's a vault there, etc. And so we went in and we, did an agreement with them where we took a portion of their vault and put a vault within a vault. So we built a vault within the vault that has, CCTV cameras, remote access. We have our own floor vaults within this vault, within a vault, etc. And we built all that out. That's all done. And so we had the regulator wanted to see that. So they made a trip there a month ago to look at that facility. They're happy with how, everything was built there. But they said, and this has been the remaining issue, is, within that facility, still part of the access to get to our vault within a vault, we have to rely on the TTPOS personnel, just because we're going from, a different portion of that building to our portion of the building, et cetera. So the regulator said, you know what, you should really expand that facility such that you have the access to your own, vault within a vault that you built. So we took that recommendation on board with our local partners, and we came to an enhanced agreement with the post office. And so now we've expanded that footprint within that vault. We're in the process now. With the last couple of weeks, we've been building out that expanded facility for different access points that now we control, all the way from the outside, all the way inside to the vault within the vault. And so that construction is almost done. And that's the last piece. So BEPT, the regulator, has said that they are going to make a trip to see what we've done. And once that's done, what that means is that our local entity, Kinesis Monetary Indonesia, becomes the approved and licensed depository for gold bullion in Indonesia. The only one, actually, because it's the one that's underneath this law. So they will go there. They haven't said when they'll go and visit, but I'm assuming it would be fairly quickly. And once they see that we've done the recommendation that they've said, they will approve us as the licensed depository, Kinesis Monetary Indonesia. And that's the last pillar standing before these apps that have already been geared up to go can start to commercialize. So that's kind of where we're at. As you said, Rhino, we saw this new app that we've built for another partner. You've read about that. We will sequentially look. The POS-Pay Gold and the JFX Gold X will be the first two that get commercialized, and then we'll sequentially commercialize these others with our partners, including NU Gold, the 100 million members, this new one, IPHI, which includes its membership, the president of the country. And then there's another one that I don't know that we have the standalone one, the independent one, MetalGo, from our existing partner there. And then there's another one that I don't know that we've really publicized too much, and that's with Muhammadiyah, which is the second largest religious organization behind NU. We've built them an app that's ready to go. That'll be sequentially after the others. Look, they have 50 million members. They have 128 universities that they support in across Indonesia. They have a large chain of hospitals that they run. So rather than NU, which is really just a member organization, it's more of a social thing. This Muhammadiyah is a really charity-driven and educational-driven. So there's a lot more touch points rather than just their membership. There'll be access points to these universities for us. There'll be access points to the hospitals for potentials for payments and et cetera. So exciting times ahead. We're at the finish line. We're getting very close, and it hasn't been easy. It's a national product that touches upwards of 300 million people that we're going to through all these apps be able to try and access to. So that's where we're at with Indonesia. Hold on, buckle up, because it's going to be coming very shortly.
One of the questions that's been asked recently is, will people will be able to see once transactions are flowing in Indonesia? Will people be able to see them on the KMS exchange?
Well, yes, of course, because anything that trades within these apps is integrated into KAU, so you will see volume.
Yeah.
You won't, just like now, you won't see who the other side is, right? You don't know who you're trading against now.
No.
And you won't know that in this case either, but you will see all the volume that happens on all these apps, 100% flow into volume on the KMS.
Yeah. Okay. So basically it's one central order book and everyone's getting the best price.
That's correct.
Great. Thank you.
Any other updates that are imminent that we've not discussed? I feel like this has been a phenomenal full night or day of discussion. Is there anything else that you guys would like to share with us?
We're excited to. Well, I think there's a great deal of anticipation around announcing our second public-private partnership, which we have spoken about, alluded to, all these sort of things. We can't do it until the right time. So we're getting over that last hurdle, and then we'll be able to announce that. That's really exciting. That's a big integration, and it's got very short timeframes associated with it. So we're dealing with a number of months from announcing this to actually rolling it out as well. There's been a lot of preparation work done, and so very excited for that. But just hang with us, everybody, while we get over the final hurdle there to be able to announce that. So yeah, that's another really, really interesting public-private partnership. And I have said before that we've got others lined up for the second time. Did a little dash to an island recently, but first time since the beginning of COVID, I'll be getting on the road again and heading into a number of countries that have indicated that they want to move ahead, take next steps with Kinesis. So it's very exciting that we are attracting governments, we're attracting institutional organisations, and obviously we have our retail user community as well. But so going forward for the rest of this year, you're going to see a multi-pronged sort of commercialisation effort going out as we bring online and release new services, new solutions. It brings online different markets and different capabilities within the system. But once we've got our foundational building blocks all built together, then that unlocks the full power of our commercialization and allows us to go out with confidence and commercialize the business in providing what it was always meant to provide, being a precious metals-backed monetary system. And we've got some really exciting product development as well, which hasn't been announced in any way yet, which we're really excited. We've been working away at that, but there's some pretty phenomenal big stuff in there, including some very unique intellectual property and these sort of things. So we still see ourselves, okay, we're 5 years into this journey now, but it's still the very beginning. This is going to be a very long journey, and we're excited to be sharing it with our community. And so, yeah, no, it's great. Very, very grateful and appreciative for the support of our community along the way as well.
That's great. Thank you so much. So really appreciate you guys being with us tonight, today. And just to the community, this meeting will be on a variety of different platforms, including YouTube, C4SM, as well as Kinesis. So just be looking for that. And then also, we'll be sharing some opportunities for the community to submit questions to the next Vaultside, which we'll announce and we'll be doing on a regular basis. So we'll be sharing some more of those, most likely the forum, where you can submit questions. And again, thank you very much for meeting with us and answering all these questions.
Thank you. Thank you for arranging it.
Thank you, everybody.
All right.